Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's software development information session, career workshop. I am going to kick off the event here in just a couple of minutes. Before I do, I just wanted to make sure that everybody can see me okay, everybody can hear me okay. You can just let me know in the chat off to the right-hand side there if that's okay. See some people typing. Everything is good, good. Okay, awesome. And I also like to invite everyone to share where they are joining us from. I'm personally from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Actually, I'm originally from Ontario. I lived in Niagara Falls, and then I lived out in the Rockies in BC for almost 10 years, and now I've been in Calgary for a bit here too. Vancouver, Montreal, Vancouver, Toronto, Vancouver, Kelowna, Victoria, Vancouver. Amazing. Lots of people from Vancouver in here today. Well, welcome everybody. Maple Ridge, Langley. Thank you for joining, for coming in today. I am going to just familiarize everybody with the event room here before I actually start the presentation. So in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, obviously there is the chat area. We are all in there right now chatting and sharing our locations. There's also a questions tab just beside that there. The questions tab is what we're going to use at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions for me, if you have any questions for our industry speaker today, feel free to just throw them into the questions tab, and we will politely ignore them while we're doing the presentation with the goal to circle back and do some audience Q&A at the end altogether. So if you put something in there and we don't answer it right away, I promise we are going to get back to it. It's a planned Q&A for the end there. The other thing I should note for this session is that it will be fully recorded. So if anybody wants any information that is included in my slides, if anybody's looking for any details, to kind of reconfirm something that the speaker said or that I said, a full recording of this session will be automatically emailed out to you after the event once it's completed. So look for that. You're also welcome to take notes. You can, take screenshots. You can do anything you like during the presentation as well, but you're welcome to just kind of sit back and relax. So what we're going to do too in the chat here, I'm going to ask somebody in my team to share the course links in the chat. So we're sharing information today on our software development bootcamp. The bootcamp is available through CircuitStream, but it's also available through UBC Extended Learning and McGill School of Continuing Studies. So those are the three links there in the chat. If anybody wants to click on those or request a syllabus, would get emailed to you, I believe, the same way that the event recording would. And then it just give you a little bit more details on the course that I'm going to touch on here today. So without further ado, I can get the presentation kicked off here. I'm going to move that screen over. And I will start by introducing myself. So my name is Tyler. I've been at CircuitStream for just about 3 years. I literally said this a couple days ago. I can't remember my exact anniversary date, but it's got to be coming up here pretty soon. I think it's in June, maybe July. Previous to this, though, I worked in travel and tourism for about 10 years or so. I always say that was kind of like the pre-COVID career that I had. We will also have an amazing guest speaker here today. Shakhed Brosh, a gameplay programmer at Ubisoft, is going to join me on stage in just a few minutes to share on her story. She's going to give some information on her current role, and I'll ask her some questions and get some tips and advice for new software developers. So before I invite her up, I'll go ahead and kick off the presentation with a little bit of an overview of who we are at CircuitStream. So CircuitStream began in 2015 through a network of developers, designers, and creators, and is now a leading provider of technology learning for adults and for teens in the areas of AR/VR, game development and design, product management, software development, and then some additional STEM courses for teens as well. We partner with industry-leading companies and leading educational institutions, as you can see on the screen there, to offer these courses and training to those looking to learn more about emerging technologies. So the universities that you see on there are our university partners, and then on the left, that's just a handful of our corporate partners as well. So why launch a career in software development? Software developers collaborate with project managers, designers, and end users to understand requirements and translate them into functional software solutions. They're responsible for designing, coding, testing, and maintaining software applications and systems. The Combination of intellectual challenge, creative expression, collaboration, and impact makes being a software developer a deeply fulfilling and rewarding profession. On screen, you can see some of the top reasons why people would choose to work as software developers. Acquiring software development skills in Canada positions individuals to excel in a variety of industries and contribute to economic growth. The current average salary for software developers in Canada right now is $104,000 per year. And again, as soon as I start hitting stats, I always just like to remind people, in case you just came in, this full session will be recorded and sent out to everyone after. So if you're looking to access any of these stats or any of this information, you'll get it all in the event recording afterwards there. So there are many different titles that software developers are hired for, including programmers, software engineers, front-end, back-end developers, many more. According to the BC Tech Association, there are over 15,000 job openings for software developers in BC each year, and over 220,000 people directly employed in this industry in this province. A little bit on Quebec too. Software developer opportunities in Quebec are also abundant and varied, especially in major cities like Montreal and Quebec City. The average salary, annual salary for software developers in Quebec is currently $97,000. And now a little bit about the actual bootcamp itself. So our hands-on 36-week software development bootcamp is both online and project-based. It has 5 hours of live class per week, 2.5 hours of technical biweekly career labs, and 10 hours of independent study. There are weekly assignments, in-class challenges, portfolio projects, and students complete a capstone project at the end of the bootcamp. Over the course of the 36 weeks, students will acquire the skills to master the craft of developing advanced, scalable software systems, including leveraging modern AI tools to code faster and smarter. This foundational course is an excellent starting point for those aiming to establish a career in software development, offering an in-depth introduction to the industry's core practices and emerging trends. That's a little bit on the bootcamp itself. Now, in terms of the course outcomes, the bootcamp outcomes, graduates emerge with a comprehensive set of skills that prepare them for success in the dynamic field of software development. Through in-depth modules like Software Development Foundations, students gain the ability to conceptualize and create solutions to complex problems, fostering critical thinking and analytical reasoning. Graduates are also educated in areas like front-end development, full-stack integration, system design, algorithmic thinking, AI-enhanced software development, and more, as you can see on the screen. Students receive career development and support to complete the bootcamp, and they finish the course with software development certification. So as I mentioned previously, the course is available directly through CircuitStream, but it's also available through UBC EXL and McGill School of Continuing Studies. And that is the 3 certifications that they would receive once students complete the courses there. Speaking of career development support, I'm now going to welcome Wanai, CircuitStream's Student Outcome Manager, on stage to share a little bit of information. Welcome, Wanai.
Thanks, Tyler. All right, so our career labs teach students how to leverage technical and behavioral strengths, gain awareness of the digital ecosystem, create compelling portfolios, elevate digital presence, learn how to network effectively, and become interview ready for industry jobs. Our career and networking support really sets our programs apart from others you may find. Every student has different objectives coming in, but for those that are looking for new jobs or to improve their current positions, find this aspect of the course incredibly helpful. As part of the career support, our bootcamps also come with a student pitch day, which happens towards the end of the program. Students have the opportunity to showcase their capstone projects to hiring and industry partners. This event is an amazing way to add people to your network, be considered for any job openings they may have, or to just receive feedback on your projects from hiring managers working in the industry. Here are some examples of our hiring partners for our software development bootcamp, who may attend our upcoming pitch days. You can also expect to see some of these industry partners in our exclusive AMA sessions, which are also a great opportunity to network with potential employers. Thanks. Back to you, Tyler.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Wanai. Yeah, we host private AMA sessions for our students as well throughout the course. So we bring in these amazing industry speakers and they get to connect directly. So amazing. Thank you so much, Wanai. Now, without further ado, I am going to go ahead and officially invite today's speaker up on stage. Shaked is a gameplay programmer at Ubisoft, and I am going to ask her some questions about her experience and get her to provide some tips and advice for newcomers. So welcome, Shaked.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here, and thank you for having me on.
Of course, of course. So, and actually, I always give people a warning. I'm going to change the screen size and put yours bigger while we're doing the Q&A, if that's okay. Just so it doesn't flip on you and freak you out. All right, so I'm going to move my questions over here. So I'll start off by asking, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience with software development?
Sure. So yeah, like I said, my name is Shaked, and like Tyler said, I work at Ubisoft Toronto as a gameplay programmer. I've been there for a little over 3 years. I actually had my, we call it Ubiversary, about a week or two ago. But
Gotcha.
before that, I have a combined total of 7 years of education. I have a 3-year college advanced diploma and then a 4-year Bachelor of Science. My college diploma was in game programming, and that's kind of where I started learning programming and fell in love with the game industry. And then I went to university to do computer security, which is essentially computer science, but it specializes in the cybersecurity world and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I am kind of I didn't do a boot camp to get into the coding world, but I definitely started my college educational experience at literally zero. So if anyone else is thinking of doing this boot camp, but they're kind of worried about like, oh, I don't have any prior knowledge or experience or anything like that, I promise you it can be done. You can learn and you can obviously get a job after doing something like this. The great thing about doing these kinds of programs where it teaches you from the ground up is it assumes that everyone knows nothing, regardless of what people's levels are when they come in. So the professors are always really, really good, or the teachers are always really, really great at like making sure that everyone at least has a similar foundation, whether that foundation came from outside or from the program. So that's a really great thing about doing this kind of boot camp program.
Yeah. Yeah, we always say for people who come in with a little bit of experience, the first few weeks of the boot camp's probably going to act like a little bit of a refresher for them. But then even with that, you know how many people I've met in my life that are like, oh, I don't need to. I know though. I know that down. And then they go into an introductory course and learn 10 new things, which always makes me laugh. So, so just a cool little fun add on to what you said there. All right. So another question I have here is why would we use JavaScript in a software development bootcamp? And why is learning foundational skills using a coding language like JavaScript important for software developers? And the second and third part of that is, do these skills transfer to other coding languages as well?
So JavaScript is a really interesting language where it's actually, I think, one of the most used languages in the industry, which means programmers who know how to use it are in demand, and people are looking for people who know how to code in it. One of the things that's nice about JavaScript, unlike other programming languages, is it's super fast to see results. To get JavaScript running, you really just need a browser. You don't need any special equipment or a specially set up environment or anything like that. You really can, honestly, you can program JavaScript with like Notepad. And just making sure that like it runs in your browser, which everyone has a browser on their computer. So it's a really interesting language in that sense where you can see your learning and you can see how your skills are improving really, really quickly, which is nice to have that like instant feedback almost. And the other nice thing about JavaScript is it's kind of a really great springboard for learning more about coding. And that is, I guess there's like two parts to it. One part is kind of your second/third question of like, how does learning JavaScript how does it transfer to like other languages? So I like to think of coding as like speaking any language, English, French, German, whatever. Once you know when you're speaking, once you know one Latin-based language, you can kind of sort of pick up words or even like the gist of sentences in other languages. It's super similar in coding. In coding, JavaScript, for example, it is a C-based language, which means any other C-based language, you're going to be able to pick it up really quickly, or at the very least understand what code is done. And the C-based languages are kind of one of the more popular languages. So that's like C++, obviously C, C Sharp, Java, Python, like those are all C-based languages. And so when you start, if you want to like move to a different area of coding, with having that foundation of JavaScript is super useful because you'll be able to pick up those other languages really, really quickly. And the other nice thing about Java, and I think the bootcamp goes into it, is Java has this really cool thing called frameworks, which are developed for Java. And basically a framework is it's like a bunch of pre-built code really that makes developers' life easier. And so instead of starting a new project and starting all the way from scratch, you can use one of these frameworks to kind of get you started and make all the like boilerplate things much quicker to do. And instead of, let's say, having to do 10 lines of code for something, these frameworks will allow you to just do it in one line of code. So the bootcamp, I believe, does React as the framework, I believe. So that's a really cool thing about JavaScript is like once you understand JavaScript, there are so many of these frameworks that are used in the industry. Like React, I think Facebook/Meta uses it. There's other ones like Angular. There's one called Vue, VUE. There's just so many different frameworks out there, and you can really find your specialty within this big umbrella of JavaScript.
That's cool. So it's like frameworks, almost like an existing template that takes a little bit of the extra work out of the initial stages.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's great to, the whole thing is like typing takes time. And having to do all these boilerplate things of like, let's say 10, 15 lines of code every time you have to create a new project, every time you're starting to work on a new task or something, having the ability to do it in one line of code or calling one function or something like that through these frameworks, it makes your life so much easier, and it makes the dread, let's say, of starting a new project or a new task a little less or a little easier.
Amazing. So yeah, I guess going back, so JavaScript skills are great because they lead into everything we just said, basically. So
yeah. Like JavaScript
amazing.
was one of the first languages that I learned as well. I'll talk about it a little bit, I think, a little bit later in the conversation, but yeah, JavaScript was my program taught us, I think, like 4 or 5 different languages at the start, and JavaScript is one of those because it has so many of the advantages, especially when you're learning to code for the first time. Seeing a bunch of words on the screen, you don't really understand like the importance, I guess, of what you're doing. But the nice thing with JavaScript is because it's so quick to see results, you can get really awesome, flashy looking things almost instantaneously because you just like reload your browser page, for example. So JavaScript is a really, really cool first language to learn.
Awesome. Go JavaScript. All right. So let me see, what else do I have here for you? Oh yeah, I like this one. So what non-technical skills have proven valuable in your career?
That's always something that I'm asked because I do a lot of these like student engagement things. It's always like, what soft skills are companies looking for? What soft skills can people develop? And there's, I think, 2 main ones when it comes to being a programmer. The first one is problem solving. If you kind of abstract programming a lot, basically what programmers are doing every day is solving problems through code. But this problem is either a request that the client has or a design that the design team has given you or something like that. But you're essentially solving problems the entire day, whether the problem is like an issue or a problem, an issue that came up in the software, or if the problem is like, create me this new thing. So you need to be able to think of how to or know how to solve these problems. And the most challenging part of solving problems is usually like, what is the first step? So getting good at figuring out what is that first step, because once you start the ball rolling, it'll eventually snowball into like a full solution. But that first step is always the toughest. So I would recommend, in terms of developing your problem solving skills, there's tons of online resources. Like one of them is, I think it's called LeetCode, which basically has a bunch of like coding kind of problems that it tells you of, hey, write a coding solution for XYZ. Um, and that kind of allows you to hone those problem solving skills. I know back in December, there was uh, it was like an advent of code, I think it was called, where every day of December until Christmas, it would give you a different coding challenge, which is really fun. It's been going on for a few years, so hopefully it'll continue happening in 2024. But yeah, just trying to find those places where you can kind of train yourself or improve your skills of solving problems and starting that first step. That could be really helpful. And then I think the second most important non-technical skill is time management. And that's not only making sure that you're on top of your own work, but it's also knowing how long it takes you to do stuff. And it's perfectly fine if it takes you a little bit longer to do things. You just need to know that, like, for this specific task, I need an extra day or two because I always struggle with that. Or I know that with that specific task, I can do it like really quickly because I've done it 100 times before, and so to do it, it won't be that bad. Knowing how long approximately it takes you to do stuff will really help your manager or your producers or other people on the team who basically plan the time of the project. If you can give your manager accurate time estimates for the tasks that you're given, it's super helpful for you, them, everyone on the team. Everyone is then happy because they know approximately how long things will take. So yeah, time management. Obviously, you need to kind of know how to manage your own time, making sure that you're not spending too much time on things. And to that point, also knowing that point of like, hey, I've spent, let's say, 2-3 hours trying to solve this problem. I am getting literally nowhere. Let me reach out for help on someone on the team. Knowing that point of like, hey, I've wasted too much time trying to do it by myself. I need help. It's really tough, especially at the beginning, because you always feel like you don't want to bother anyone, or you like you're taking time away from their work or something like that. But all the people that I've worked with, thankfully, have been super, super kind, and that's kind of the nice thing about the software development industry is we're super open with like collaboration and helping people out and that kind of thing. So when you're working in a company, knowing that point of like, okay, I've tried it by myself, it's not working, let me reach out for help. That's also kind of part of time management, of knowing where that point is.
Absolutely. Yeah, my experience in this industry has been so much support and so much collaboration from everybody that I've connected with. So I could absolutely mirror that too. So perfect. All right. So what do I have next here for you? What opportunities do you see for software developers both inside and outside of the gaming industry? And the second part of that is, what other industries do you see kind of offering exciting opportunities for developers?
I think one of the really cool parts of software dev is, honestly, nowadays, there aren't too many industries that don't need it or won't benefit from it. Like there's some industries, obviously, like the gaming industry, that will not function without software developers. But then there's so many other industries like the finance industry, the medical industry, those kinds of things where you wouldn't think that software dev applies. But even if they don't need a developer to like create to manage things, like for example in the game industry, for industries like for example the medical industry, they can have software developers on their team to make things run quicker, to create tools that the doctors can then use for, like nowadays, especially with the medical industry moving all virtually, like they need developers to maintain those websites and those tools and stuff like that. So that's the really cool thing about software dev nowadays is, if you have an interest, you can usually apply software dev to that interest. It doesn't matter how niche it is, how kind of out there. personally, I really believe that every single industry either needs software dev or can benefit from it, even in the sense of like, we just need a developer to create a bunch of tools so that when I have to do this mundane task every day that takes me like 15 minutes, I can just press a button and it does it automatically. Like that's something that a software dev can do, and can it can really benefit the team. For why I like the game industry specifically, it's really fun. It's a great feeling knowing that stuff you're doing um, brings joy to other people, and that's also, I think, just like outside of games. When you're a developer, like I said, let's say you're working as in a company where instead of a task taking 15 minutes, you create a button where the person just has to press the button and it does it automatically. You're almost creating joy for the person. I'm not almost, actually you are creating joy for that person. Now they have 15 minutes of their life back. So I really think that the software development world is all about like making people's lives easier, more efficient, happier, better. So it's a really, really fun industry. And like we said before, it's like super, super collaborative. So everyone is just out to help everyone else, which is really nice.
Yeah, I feel like with tech advancements in 2024, there's not many industries or not many companies that don't have software devs these days. So you're absolutely right there. All right. So what was the next one I have here for you? What do you see as the largest benefits of taking a software development career bootcamp, and how might the bootcamp environment help build confidence for new developers?
I think one of the benefits is the idea of like building a community. And that's kind of one of the nice things about doing this boot camp, where it's like a really intense set of time. You really do, it's like a forged in fire almost. Like you really do make a lot of friends and a lot of great connections within this, and especially how you were describing the course, where you have the opportunity to have these AMAs with industry professionals. Like that's something that you are not going to be able to get in just normal education, because they're really focused on like what is the next course you're doing and the next course and the next course and whatever. So doing these kinds of things where you have the opportunity to connect with industry professionals, and you have the opportunity to even connect with each other, because you are the next industry professionals. You are the next um, uh, I don't remember the word, but like the next group of people who is going to be the industry professionals of tomorrow. So it's a great way to network and to make friends, make study groups. I know that like I super benefited from creating a study group. I'm still friends with the people who I was in a study group with all those years ago in university and in college. So that's really nice. And I think also one of the nice benefits of doing a boot camp specifically is it's super focused on like getting skills, getting you started on learning how to develop your skills and developing your skills in general. And so it's really about like, let's get practical experience under your belts, which is really nice, because one of the things that's kind of I felt disheartened about in university is so theory based. And while theory is great, and it's, you need to know the theory behind things, just sitting in class and like listening to a professor drone on and on and on about why this is so important without actually seeing the practical why, I found that a little bit disheartening. So doing a boot camp like this, where you have the practical skills and you're learning the practical skills from day one almost, it can help build your confidence really, really quickly, whereas kind of more traditional schooling might not.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard that same sort of feedback mirrored from so many people. But even what you said previously about the networking, I'll just quickly plug that at Circuit Stream. We do have a private Discord server for all of our students. So, and once students go through the courses, or as soon as they register, they're added in, and we don't kick anybody out once they've completed the courses. So the intent there is we want people to continue to collaborate, to connect with each other, to ask for advice. We have so many developers and designers in XR and game development and software that end up coming together afterwards and working on projects, or just having a network of connections for the rest, or finding opportunities. I mean, there's been so many people that have let us know that they received a career opportunity through somebody else that they met within our internal network, because they were just talking about ideas and things like that. So So yeah, again, I couldn't really agree more with everything you said, but I just wanted to add a little bit of additional support from the Circuit Stream side to your messaging there. All right. And how do you see, this is a cool question too. I'm actually excited to hear what you say on this one, but how do you see the integration of AI technology shaping the future of software development?
Oh, that is a good question. Um, I this might be a bit like not controversial, but like I still think it's still a little too early to tell where AI is going. We've had AI for a couple years, but I think with the rate of the way that it's developing, it's still I think it's still a little bit too early to say how AI will shape the industry as a whole. But what I think or what I hope AI will do is it will be almost like a more efficient way of Googling things, where you can have this AI like ChatGPT or something like that, where you can ask it questions. And instead of having to go to Google, ask the same question, and then have to go through like 5 or 10 different links to find the answer that you're looking for, you have this AI partner almost to give you accurate information. In terms of like writing code, again, it's all depends on how AI advances. I know currently things like ChatGPT can write code as long as it's like little chunks of code. Once you start getting into like more complicated things, it definitely does not work out too well. But the nice thing about that is even if it gives you code that is like super buggy and absolutely will not work if you try to use it, it at least gets you that first step or maybe half step, not a full step, but that half step of like, oh, okay, this is an idea. Let me riff off of that and let me see how I can get that to actually work in my code. Um, and so that's kind of where I see AI currently. I have no idea where AI is going to go in terms of development and in terms of its strength and power. But I hope that it just becomes like an efficient buddy that you can ask for help.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I've been hearing from everybody. And I mean, even in my role, I'm not doing coding in my role, but things like AI tools like ChatGPT can certainly help. They can work as nice tools along with what you're doing already in your job and your career on a day-to-day basis. So at least currently, that's, AI is supporting the office that I work in for sure, but it's not taking over anybody's positions or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't take over. Um, I mean, I think we'd be in a bit of trouble if it takes over. But yeah, I really hope that it continues on the trend of like AI is there to support people and support people's roles, but it doesn't fully replace people because I think we still need obviously the human element and we still need to like give prompts to the AI or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, a cool example I heard a while back. Somebody was comparing rather when bank machines first were invented, and the general public freaked out and said, "There's never going to be banks anymore. There's never going to be bank tellers anymore. All these people are going to lose their jobs." And I don't know what year the bank machines or ATMs were invented, but it's been a minute. It's been a little while since they were invented. And as you can tell, there's still banks. There's still tellers. It almost acts as additional support for, if somebody wants to come and just grab a bit of money, they don't necessarily have to wait in the lineup and go meet with somebody. They have the option to do either of the two. So it's kind of how I envision AI, at least initially here, being a great support tool for people, especially in
Yeah.
technology roles. So
That's a great comparison, actually.
I
Yeah, I
know
really hope that I really hope it continues in that way.
I held on to that in comparison. It was from a speaker we had a few weeks ago. So cool. Okay. And then, we did talk about this before, but maybe I'll just get you to kind of just reiterate or touch on it again. But how might boot camps help students build a network within the software development community?
Yeah, so I did say it before, but like I think one of the nice things about a boot camp or any program really, but like specifically a boot camp because it is this like intense focus period where you're only focusing or you're mostly focusing on this thing. Um, it really is nice to have people in the same boat as you, who understand what you're going through, who understand uh, the amount of work that you have, where the struggles, they might understand the struggles that you're having if they're maybe experiencing the same thing. And the nice thing about it is like maybe you're struggling with something and a friend or someone in your boot camp can help you with it. And then maybe they're struggling with something and you can help them. So it's a really cool like give and take relationship in terms of building a community in the development world. and yeah, like I said, I'm still super close friends with a bunch of the people that I had in a study group, because you really form a bond when you're in these intense boot camp like scenarios. But yeah, it's really nice to, and I know also of a bunch of stories of people who have finished a boot camp or finished a program or whatever, and they just decide with their friends to start their own company. That's the nice thing about software dev and the gaming world as well, is you can start your own company if you want. If you see that there is a hole in the market that you think you can fill, or if you just want to be another provider for services for a company, you can just go ahead and create that company with you and your friends or whoever. So having these kinds of boot camps where you can create that community, you also may be creating potential relationships with future coworkers.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point because you don't realize it at the time sometimes as you're doing it, and then you end up working with these people or for these people later on, or they
Yeah.
connect you with somebody great. So
And honestly, the software dev and gaming world is so small. You will end up crossing paths with people in the weirdest of ways. Like somehow myself and a few other people that I was in a study group with are all working in the same company. And there's other people from my program who I knew of who are also working in the company. Like it as big as the software dev world is, it's also really, really small. Which is nice because once you create that community, when it is like a nice little family, an extended family and distant at points. But the software dev world is a nice little family.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. You said initially it's small, and I was like, it's huge, but it's small. And then you kind of said the same thing. And I agree. I mean, I've been to conferences. I went to a developers conference in California last year, and there was like 35,000 people there. And I bumped into the same people at other conferences, and like it's like how do you even like go through a crowd of 35,000 people and then recognize the same folks at other conferences? So it is a very tight knit community, but a huge industry. So.
Yeah.
All right, and a couple more questions here. So, what can new developers do to stand out to potential employers?
Well, first of all, doing a boot camp like this can be a really great thing. Like Tyler mentioned, part of the boot camp is you get portfolio pieces, you have a capstone project, which is really cool. And doing these kinds of things, you build that portfolio. You don't really hear it too much in the software dev world. You more hear about like having a portfolio in like art or something like that. But having a portfolio or just examples of code that you've done to show employers, it's really useful because it's hard proof of like, here are my skills, here is what I can do. And so having a lot of these projects, doesn't matter how small they are, it doesn't matter how big they are, having a lot of these projects under your belt is really helpful. Um, Another thing, I think it kind of gets overlooked, but be passionate, and show your passion, honestly. Like whether it's a passion about the company, whether it's like a love of programming, a love of the industry that you want to go into, whatever that passion is. As employers, we really love seeing passion, and we honestly, passionate people do better work. When you're passionate about what you're doing, it really does show in the work. And so trying to find what you're passionate about and then going for it, that can maybe be something that you explore during the boot camp. But yeah, just try to show your passion. And yeah, in addition to doing programs like this boot camp, try to look for things like hackathons or programming competitions. I'm not unfortunately too familiar with the BC side of things, but I'm sure if you go on websites like Eventbrite, or if you just Google like Vancouver BC hackathon, I'm sure you'll find some events that you can participate in, maybe also through UBC or McGill. You might be able to participate in things through there. Again, I'm not super familiar with what those schools kind of rules and about that are. But yeah, I know specifically in Toronto, we have, like for Ubisoft Toronto, we have two student competitions every year. that we run. A bunch of other companies also do that. We always love getting new grads and juniors into the company, and doing these hackathons or these programming competitions are a great way because it's almost like a technical interview, that you're doing through these hackathons or programming competitions. So yeah, that's another thing is beyond just like doing these boot camps or something like that. Doing these hackathons is also a nice kind of another portfolio piece, and it's also a nice way to meet new people, which again goes back to that like building community, building your village thing.
Totally. Yeah, just like put yourself out there as much as you can. Like Google opportunities, find networking opportunities, events, and to your point as well, like if you have some companies that you're really interested in, um, you know, realistically, right when you come out of a boot camp, you might not be automatically qualified for the top role at the company, your favorite company. You might have to work a few years to kind of get towards that position. But if you do have some companies that you're really interested in and they do hire for junior software roles, and even if they don't have something posted, I always encourage people just reach out anyways. Add people on LinkedIn, shoot some messages, write an email, send it through to the whoever it is that your whatever department it is, whatever. Just basically reach out and don't be scared, even if job positions aren't posted. Because I know so many people who have uncovered opportunities that way, and oftentimes the employer's a little bit more impressed that you didn't see anything and you took it upon yourself to take the time to still reach out. And the other thing I say too is use your skills to impress employers. So like if you've got cool software development skills and you can put together some cool visual things in any capacity, use that to, with your resume or how you present yourself. And oftentimes that'll help too. So
Yeah,
it's
I had
great.
a friend who, huge Maple Leafs fan. I know it's a bit divisive, especially people from Montreal. Huge Maple Leafs fan. And he saw some sort of opening on LinkedIn or something to something tied to the software dev world. I think it was like an IT related job. He just like tried. He shot a message to the person being like, "Hey, can I interview for it?" And he applied for it, and he ended up getting the job. And they were so impressed by how passionate he is about the Leafs and about like, and they knew that if he was hired and if he was part of it, he would bring that passion to the team as a whole into his job. So yeah, if there's any sort of company or industry that you're super keen into getting into, just like try to find their recruiter or like a student ambassador or some sort of role on LinkedIn for that company, and just send them a message. Like I said, a lot of companies are looking to hire new grads and to hire juniors because that's really the only way that to keep a team healthy, I think, is to have like a lot of juniors and not only senior people in the team, because eventually the seniors are going to retire and you need the juniors to become seniors. So yeah, just honestly, that's a great tip. If there is any sort of company or industry that you're passionate about, or that you're interested in even, just try to find someone on LinkedIn that you can connect with, even if it's just like to ask a couple questions of like trying to find out more about the industry. But yeah, also the networking events that you mentioned are really great. They might be it might seem like an awkward thing, and you might be really intimidated by them. I know I was when I was a student and when I was going to them, but they really do a great job of like giving you the opportunity to meet with so many professionals in the industry in a very short amount of time.
100%. Amazing, amazing. And I've only got two more questions here for you. Well, actually, only one really, because the other one's really easy. But and we did touch on this a little bit, but I thought maybe I can just like we can kind of bring it to a concise point where we are now. So, what kind of final advice would you give to somebody who's considering taking a software bootcamp? Because I know we touched on little bits of that before, but
Honestly, go for it. And that's not me trying to like plug the boot camp. Like I said, my first semester ever of any kind of like programming or anything, it was structured like a boot camp with the idea of it like being super intense, one semester of just like hit the ground running. And I honestly think I wouldn't have the skills I have without it, because when you hit the ground running, you get exposed to so many different aspects of programming in a very short amount of time. And I really like, for me, it really was the best way to learn, is just like learning a lot of things very quickly. And then once you're done with that super intense phase, you can take a step back and say like, okay, let's look at everything that I've learned. Maybe there's a specific area that like super intrigued me, but we just didn't have time to dive super deep into it because it's boot camp and there's a limited amount of time. But maybe there's a topic or something that was introduced that was really interesting, and then you can do that deep dive, whether it's continuing education or deep dive by yourself, because there's tons and tons of resources when it comes to software dev online. But yeah, I think it's phenomenal to do these like intense things. And I know I have like a few friends who have done these sort of boot camp programs, not this specific one, but other ones. And they fell in love with coding, and they have been a programmer now for several years, and they're loving it. So it's definitely like something that can be completed, as intense as it seems, and you can obviously get real careers out of it. The one thing I will say is, because it is an intense period of time and like things are going very quickly, my biggest tip would be, if you are struggling for any reason, whether it's like as small of a problem or question as you think it is, reach out. I think Tyler mentioned that there are, or maybe someone else mentioned that there are office hours or something that the teachers have, or just I'm sure there's some sort of email that you can use to message the teachers. If you have anything that you don't understand fully or are struggling to grasp the concept of, reach out early. I had some people in my program who in the first semester were like, oh no, it's not a big deal. It's just like this teeny tiny thing. And a teeny tiny hole eventually grew larger and larger over time. And then it ended up being like a giant hole that now it's so difficult to go back and try to fill that hole and try to regain that knowledge. So that would be my number one tip, is once you're in the boot camp, if for whatever reason, even if it's just like a minor question or anything like that, feel free to message your teachers and or maybe even ask classmates. Maybe one of your classmates will be able to help you with it if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to your teacher if you think it's too minor. But as someone who used to be a teacher for, not for software dev, it was for game engines, I had no problem answering any question, big or small. And I'm sure the teachers that are teaching this boot camp are the same. So yeah, just any sort of little minor thing that you're not sure about, reach out, whether it's to your classmates or your teachers, because a little hole can be a gaping canyon very quickly without you even noticing it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and to what you were saying before, just to add a little bit to it too. So the students can ask during the live classes if they want. They have email access to the teachers, but probably the biggest connection tool is the Discord server, because everybody's on that, and you can collaborate with the instructors and with the other students that way too. So tons of support there. Like almost exactly what you said. Even though you didn't know the setup, that's perfect. So. Amazing. All right. Well, and then the last question I had for you was just, where can people find and connect with you?
LinkedIn is probably the easiest way. It sounds canned, but you could just search my name on LinkedIn. Feel free to message me, whether it's like software dev questions, gaming industry questions. I'll probably be able to answer gaming industry questions a little bit easier, just because while gaming is part of the software dev umbrella, it is only one small part of it, and that is unfortunately the only part that I've been exposed to. But yeah, if you have any questions or just want to connect for future reference or whatever, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, just search the name. And likewise for myself, my LinkedIn is just Tyler Trapp at CircuitStream. Anybody in here is welcome to reach out and connect with me following the event or during. Sometimes my phone dings all the way through. And so it looks like I haven't looked at them yet, but it looks like we have a little pile of questions to go through here in just a couple minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share some quick course information for the upcoming course, the start dates, pricing information, all that kind of stuff. And then we will do the Q&A together. So if you want, you can actually stay up if you want, and just go off to the side there. I'm just going to share my the screen that I had previously up here. There we go. Ooh, too many windows open at the same time. There we go. I don't know if you're like me, but when you're presenting things like this, I've got 3 screens and 7 things looking at me at all times. So, okay, so I'm just going to share some information here. So like I said, on the course pricing, upcoming cohort dates. So I'll start with the pricing information here. The full cost of the bootcamp is $14,995. If you're looking to register, you can of course pay up front, or you can utilize one of the payment options that we have below. We do have an early bird promotion in place for the course right now, which is 15% off of the total course cost. And that would be available until the end of this month. So if you have any questions about that, I'm going to give you the contact details here in just a moment. These are the upcoming cohort dates for these for this course. So September 17th through June, or October through July. If you're interested in registering for these courses, just let us know. You can reach out to the team using this contact information here. So the direct number for CircuitStream, UBC, and McGill, and then also the email information below that'll connect you straight through to the admissions teams at all three there, both schools and at CircuitStream. So that's it. I just wanted to share really quickly the contact information, the details, and now we can go back in and do the actual Q&A here. I'm actually just going to close the presentation screen here and have us up here. I feel like this is probably easier for Q&A. Okay, so let me go over here to the questions, and we'll start at the very bottom here. So it looks like our team has answered some of the questions that came through. There's a question on the hiring percentage from our game development bootcamp. It's not quite the one that we're presenting on today, but our student outcomes manager confirmed there in the thing 80% found jobs at the current stat. So if you have any more information about that or about the other courses, just reach out to the team. We can provide that stuff for you too. So I'll put this one up here first. So would a full-time or part-time job be feasible to do alongside the bootcamp? Do you have a personal recommendation? I can give you advice based on the information I've heard from many of our students and from our instructors and just professionals in the industry who have also taken boot camps. We've set it up so that you can take it alongside. So basically, we wouldn't expect people to quit their jobs to take a boot camp for a few months because kind of be crazy. So you can absolutely do it while you're working. But one thing I would caution people is maybe don't sign up for more than one boot camp at a time. If you're doing another boot camp or if you're doing something else simultaneously, maybe just wait until you complete that before you sign up for this one, because 2 boot camps and a full-time job is a lot. But one boot camp, we structured it so that it makes sense with your full-time job. I mean, don't get me wrong, you'll be busy just like anybody would be if they were doing their full-time job along with a career boot camp over the course of a few months. You'll definitely be a lot busier than you would be normally. But that's the whole purpose of the boot camp. You go through extreme few months, you learn everything that you need to do. But they've structured it so that you can do it with certainly a part-time, but absolutely a full-time job as well. So. Okay. What video conference or e-learning platform is used for the online boot camps? Ooh, I should know this off the top of my head. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna just say I'm done answering on this one right now because I don't know. Our team on the back end can absolutely answer this. Can somebody on the back end just throw the e-learning platform in as a response to this one, please? Because it's not coming to me right now, and I just want to make sure that we get that answer over to Kevin. And Kevin, if for any reason we don't get that to you during this session, I will email you and let you know what the e-learning platform is afterwards. But somebody on the team should be able to help us with that. And if they can't answer it because I've already answered that live, Kevin, maybe just pay attention to the chat and we'll throw that information into the chat there for you. Okay. So there was a question about the feedback, and it looks like our team took some quotes from some of our students and put that in there. So you guys should be able to see that in the questions tab, I believe. Can I be hired if I'm from another country? I mean, absolutely. There's software developers hired in countries all around the world. Our certification isn't specific to Canada. I believe you'd be able to be hired anywhere with those skills, but you'd have to take a look at what the requirements are. Do you have any additional information on that one, Chicken?
Yeah, that's the nice thing about programming is doesn't matter what language you speak normally, programming is the same all around the world. So you can definitely take the skills that you've learned here and use them in any other country. Also, if you're looking to be hired in Canada from another country, it really depends on the company that you're looking at. Like I know, for example, Ubisoft Toronto you have to live in Ontario to be able to be hired. So there are some companies that have restrictions of where you can live, even if it is a remote offering, just for like tax purposes and health insurance and that kind of stuff. But yeah, in terms of being from another country and trying to get hired in Canada, if there is a company that you're like in the process of or that you're looking to apply, just be upfront. There are companies that will help you with the work visa and that they have experience of how to get people get that work visa process done. So yeah, just if I don't know what direction you're asking this question, if you're in Canada trying to work in another country or you're from another country trying to work in Canada. But either way, software dev is a great job for either direction of that, because it's coding in Canada, it's coding in Germany, it's coding in Japan. It's all the same language. The comments in the code might be in the specific language that they speak in, but all programming is written in Latin-based language.
Absolutely. And just to make sure, in case this question had anything to do with being able to take the course from another country, I think it's more about being hired. But the course, the software development course through CircuitStream is available globally, so you can take that course from anywhere in the world. So I'll just add that in too. And I'm just checking. Brightspace, thank you so much, Winai. Brightspace is the learning platform there. We put it in the chat, and I just wanted to flip over and make sure that we'd answered that. Thank you, Winai. Is there an expectation for us to have higher understanding of math? Maybe before I answer this, I'll let you give like a little bit of your input on how you feel math is kind of related to coding.
It depends on the industry. If you're looking for something like machine learning, for example, it is super, super math heavy. All of machine learning essentially is math. For the gaming industry specifically, a lot more math than you think, but it's not like intense math, like calculus and derivatives and integrals and that kind of level of math. It's more I think it's like linear algebra is the technical term for it, where it's things like I hope that this makes sense to someone who is listening, but like dot product, cross product, working with matrices, how to transform them, that kind of stuff. So there is definitely in gaming more math than people think. There were several people that had to drop out of the program I was in because they did not realize they just didn't like math. They didn't like math and they didn't want to do math for the rest of their lives. So they switched to a different program. But yeah, in terms of the industry itself, outside of gaming, machine learning has a ton of math. I'm not sure about software dev, like if you're working for a company like Google or a bank company or something like that. I would assume it depends on the project that you're working on. But yeah, unfortunately, the answer is it depends.
Yeah, I'd say math skills are pretty tied into development and coding, across the board. And like you said, like a lot more in certain areas than in others. So oftentimes people who have more of a passion for coding and math end up on the development side, and people who have a little bit more passion for design end up on the design side, I guess. Is so we, there's for example, we have other courses, adult courses in like XR development and XR design. And that's something I usually would guide people. If you're a little bit more math minded or coded minded, then the development's probably going to be a little bit more of an interest to you. But even with that, there's some people who don't love math and still find a massive passion for coding once they go in, because it's just different when you're looking at coding versus just 2 + 2 = 4 on a standard math sheet.
And
So.
there's definitely areas of software dev that don't require math really at all. But one thing that I will say is like, don't feel like, oh, the design is not as good as programming. We have a bunch of designers on our on the team that I'm working on that do have a little bit of programming knowledge, and it makes them so much more useful, and it really is a benefit to them to have a little bit of insight into the coding world, whether they can actually code or not, because then they understand they're not going to give us like outlandish design ideas. They know what the boundaries are almost with code, and so it really does make the relationship of like communicating with designers and programmers much easier if they have a little bit of programming knowledge. So don't think of like, oh, I have to go to design and it's like a downgrade, so to speak, from software dev. No, design is A, really, really important. Without design, you won't have a product. And B, it's a super big asset if you're a designer and you have some sort of coding knowledge or background.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so we've got some good questions in here. We've got lots. All right, so is the bootcamp appropriate for those looking for more of an upskill? For example, those who don't have a computer science degree but have self-taught programming knowledge. The boot camps, honestly, it's great for people who have a little bit of a base knowledge, for those who don't, and for those who have a little bit of self-taught knowledge. I mean, we have people who have taken, computer science years ago, going through the software development to learn updated skills. We have people who've never gone through university programs, taking it and learning it from the ground up. And we have people, kind of like you said, who have a little bit of self-taught programming knowledge, and they kind of land somewhere in between, I would guess. But so honestly, the course is appropriate for all three of those scenarios. The first few weeks are probably just going to be, like I said before, a little bit of a refresher for you if you do have some base coding knowledge. Whereas if you don't, then it's great because it assumes, like Shaket said before, it assumes that you have no knowledge coming into the course. So it's going to start you at the very, very basic levels. But it is a boot camp, so it will start getting more advanced pretty quickly. It tackles advanced concepts much quicker than a 4-year university program would. But it absolutely starts at the very base level. So you just have to pay attention, ask questions, make sure you don't get left behind, kind of like what Shahed said before. Don't let one little thing that you don't know kind of grow into a bigger problem over the course of a few weeks. Interact with your peers, interact with your instructors. Yeah, you certainly don't have to have any sort of previous knowledge to go into the bootcamp.
Also, a nice thing about having a little bit of self-taught programming knowledge and doing this more like formal education is you end up finding any bad habits that you have, and those bad habits get corrected. One of the things I know that when we're looking at potential new hires is like, okay, if we do hire them, because we always have some sort of code that we can look at, one of the things that we definitely take into account is like, if we do hire them, how many bad habits are we going to have to untrain almost? Because that's one of the things of you will get a lot of help when you start a new role in a new job or anything, but they don't want to hold your hand too much, and they don't want to spend too much time teaching you like these are the correct rules and when it comes to coding. So doing this kind of boot camp or like a more formal education to enhance the knowledge that you have self-taught, it really does help like cross those I's and dot those, or cross the T's and dot the I's in terms of like getting rid of any bad habits and creating good ones, honestly.
Yeah, that's a great point as well. Okay, let's jump in. Ooh, we're getting lots of questions. I'll try and, for the sake of the audience, we'll try and go through these a little bit quicker, I guess, than we have been, because there's a lot coming in here. But how is the programming industry looking right now with major layoffs in recent years and the rise of AI? How is it looking, especially for new entry-level programmers? Would salary be depressed and competition for jobs increase with these factors? So, I mean, I can answer this. We get the same question, honestly, for probably every technology bootcamp course that we offer, which kind of tells me that there's very similar trends across all industries right now. I'm also hearing it from a lot of my friends and just basically any industry, technology related or not. There was a lot of growth that happened over COVID too, especially in technology. And I feel like there's a lot of kind of balancing out happening now after that. At least that's some of the feedback that I'm seeing. Something I can mention here, the rise of AI. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. We don't really see AI kind of taking over or knocking any positions out of place right now. It's kind of just being used more of a tool to help support developers right now in their current roles. So I don't think the rise of AI would really have any sort of negative impact, at least currently, on the availability for jobs. In terms of salaries, I don't know. Maybe you can kind of touch on that one as well. But I mean, with more people coming in overall, like I guess like salaries 20 years ago were even higher than they would be now for junior level positions coming in. I'm not quite sure, but Shaket, I'll let you kind of touch on that one as well.
So I'm not 100% sure about like the statistics of if salaries are going down, and it really does depend on per company. But I can tell you that companies are always looking for new talent, because that not only creates the next generation of senior developers, which are always needed. You always need some sort of kind of expert on the team, but it also, by hiring new talent, you're hiring people who have recently been educated, and so they come with all of the recent updates. So, for example, one of the things that I use the programming language C++ in my job, and so there's a new version of C++ every 2 or 3 years. Like being in, I was taught, I think, C++ 11 or 14, which is already like it was out of date when I was going through school. And so people who are now being hired, they have been learning much more modern versions of the language, and so they come with that modern knowledge as well. So there is always going to be, and that's also not to mention like any sort of grants or something that the government can make accessible to companies to hire new grads and to hire juniors. And so there's always a want and a need to hire entry level programmers into jobs. It's just really a matter of like finding a company that you like and that has the opening.
Yeah, totally. And then something else I just thought of while you were answering that as well. I shared some information earlier on the average salaries in Canada and then the average salaries within the provinces as well, BC and Quebec, I think. So that should give you a good indication of kind of where those numbers would be right now. I mean, again, I don't know if you want to take that and kind of compare it to what average salaries looked like 10 years ago in software development or something, just to kind of give you a better, an accurate depiction of which direction they're going in. But as they currently stand, they're really competitive salaries, and that's kind of the averages based on the last year of data that we pulled. So yeah, to give you a little bit of comfort there. All right, so some of these are being answered. Good. This one's for you for sure. Are software developers relatively expensive and more micromanaged?
I don't know about the relatively expensive part, but for the micromanaged part of that question, it really does depend on your manager. I have a phenomenal manager who is very much hands off, and he also has a bunch of his own work to deal with that he doesn't need to be or like continuously check in with me. But one thing that's really nice about the software development world is it's more than likely, like if you find a job that doesn't do this, it's weird, but a lot of companies now do something called a scrum, which is or like a stand-up meeting every day, which is basically like every day you start your day with meeting with the team and your manager, and like, here's what I did yesterday, here's what I'm planning to do today. Great. And then you just go around the circle. Every team member says their update, and so that allows the manager to not need to micromanage people because they get these daily updates. And the nice thing about these roundtables in the morning is, and this has happened to me like several times, either I mentioned something or one of my teammates mentioned something and it triggers like oh yeah, I can help you with that. Or, oh yeah, I've dealt with that in the past. Let me just like send you some links or some tips or whatever, how to deal with that. So yeah, I'm not really sure about the expensive part. Everyone's time, regardless of what your role in a company is valuable. I don't know who is more expensive or not, but in terms of micromanage, it really does depend on your manager and the company. But that's definitely something that you can ask when you're being interviewed for a company. At the end of every interview, they're always going to say like, hey, do you have any questions for us or anything like that? You can ask like, what is like the manager checking up on every day, or something along those lines. You can definitely ask and see if that company, and if you don't like, if the company is being micromanaged, or if the company does do micromanaging and you're not into it, you don't have to accept a potential offer from them, because it's not gonna, if you don't like being micromanaged and they do micromanaging, it's not going to be a good relationship between you two.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's probably could be for any industry, really. I don't know if this question came from somebody who maybe had a few friends who were developers who worked for a company who unfortunately had that kind of setup, but I definitely wouldn't say it's the standard across the industry by any means, and it's probably something that could exist in any company.
And at the end of the day, managers have their own stuff to deal with. Like they have all of their work, in addition to being a manager to you and to like checking up on their employees, they just don't have time in the day to micromanage every single person, especially if it's a team of even like 10 people. Like that's a lot of time and effort to micromanage, so it just doesn't make sense to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes way more sense to hire people who are competent to kind of get the tasks done on their own, right? And that you can trust. So, um, all right, this one's definitely for you. How many programming languages do you have to get to know, or do you have to know in Canada to get a job in software development?
Um, Usually one is good. It depends on the industry and on the company, but 9.9 times out of 10, when you're looking at a job description, it will tell you what programming language you're looking for, and it's usually like or this or this or this or that. They're not going to require you to know all the languages under the sun or even multiple languages. Like I can tell you, for example, my role, you only need to know the one language, C++. If you know others, great, it's a benefit, but it's not necessary because really in your there's a few roles that might use a couple languages on their day to day, but most programming roles will only use the one language on their day to day. So it doesn't really make sense to require people to know more than one language. It's an asset, obviously, but it's definitely not required. 9.9 times out of 10.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what I was going to say. That's why I laughed when you said one at first. I was like, yeah, that's totally what I was going to say too. Okay, so yeah, we still got a handful here. We'll try and get through a few more of these questions here. So I plan on taking this bootcamp next year, and I have 6 months web development experience. By the time I take it, I would have over a year of experience in web development. I plan on taking this bootcamp to move on to software development. Would this bootcamp be appropriate? 100%. Yeah, that's almost like that's a great example because you will have some development skills, but kind of in a different niche area. So if you're wanting to kind of broaden and understand software development overall, this would be a great opportunity. The first few weeks, like we said, just might be a little bit of a refresher on some of the soft coding or the general kind of base coding skills that you would learn. But yeah, I would say this would be a great option for you to take. Well, all right. This is a great question, and unfortunately, I don't have the answer to this question, but I want to get the answer to this question over to this person. So, Anna, what the first thing I'd say is, Anna, maybe go to our website and download the course syllabus and take a good look through it if you haven't already, and kind of look at the different areas. And I can connect with the admissions team here, or if you want, you can reach out to them as well. We can provide a little bit of feedback on the current students and which area that they're finding most challenging. I'm not directly connected to that right now, but all that aside, Shaked, do you have any sort of insight, for base level kind of software development? Is there any areas like would coding probably be something that would be the most challenging to pick up? Is that fair to say?
I think the most challenging is to once you have like let's say your base coding skills, it's basically like you have a bunch of tools in your toolbox. And I think probably one of the more challenging things for people is which tool do I need for the job. And that's unfortunately something that's going to come from experience, but that's kind of one of the benefits of doing a boot camp like this is you get a lot of experience with those practical class assignments and the capstone project and that kind of thing. But in terms of what is most challenging for students, one thing I will say is something that's challenging for someone else might not necessarily be challenging for you. So for example, like the program that I went through, I was fine with all the math and physics that we had to learn. I had friends who were absolutely not fine with it. But then I ended up helping them. They ended up helping me with other parts that I wasn't too sure about. So if you are going to go into the boot camp and you do find some part that's challenging for you or whatever, as Tyler said, there is a Discord for all the students. So feel free to reach out to your fellow students and maybe someone's willing to help you. And then maybe in the future you can help them back. But yeah, just it's great to have insight of what are the past challenges for students, but it might not necessarily be what your biggest challenges. Because like again, for the program that I went through, probably most students are going to say the math and physics, but I was fine with it. There were other parts that were challenging for me.
Totally. Well, and just to add to that too, if we can connect with our team and internally and kind of gather some of the student feedback and see if there's any sort of trends there, or anything that we're finding that is kind of a more challenging portion of the course. But yeah, if you connect to our admissions team, we can absolutely give you more details there on that. So, sorry. Excuse me, sorry about that. So current CEO, founder of NVIDIA, advised younger generations not to go into software development or major computer science. My thoughts on this is that there's a lot of people in the industry kind of making really big announcements with things like AI coming through that aren't necessarily going to be accurate or not actually going to be the way that the future goes. So, I mean, it's hard to know exactly where the future is going to go, but based on everything that we've said and kind of the feedback that we're getting from everybody in the industry, the availability, the job hiring opportunities, I don't really think that software development as a whole is kind of in jeopardy of not being an in demand industry or in demand career for people. So I would strongly advise people to still go through software development if that's something that they're interested in. There's still a ton of opportunity, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. I kind of think it's a little bit of an overreaction to AI advancements, in my opinion. But I can see you nodding a little bit there too.
Yeah, I was
Do you
gonna say
agree?
I didn't even hear about this. I looked it up real quick right now. It says that that with like the CEO basically said that they think that AI is gonna take over traditional programming, which who knows? We're all predicting where AI is going to be in 10 years, let alone 5 years, 3 years, whatever. So I don't think that AI is going to take over coding. I think learning software development is still going to be important because honestly, AI is still in the relatively early phase, or it's still not complex enough to be able to think on its own, create its own code without being prompted by a person. And we still need software developers, for example, to make the AI and the machine learning better and more accurate and to do all that stuff. We still need software developers. And honestly, while the computer science world moves super, super quickly, I don't think that AI is going to like I think that AI is still going to take another 5-ish years before it'll be like really self-sufficient almost. So yeah, I think that that might be like a big clickbaity thing that the CEO has said. I don't really agree with it because I think there's always going to be the need for software developers, even as powerful as AI can become.
Yeah, like going back to my example earlier, like did the advancements of ATMs and online banking completely shut down banks? No, they're still there. So it's not
Yeah.
an exact precise example, but it's just a good way to kind of look at it. A lot of times when new things come in, there's a little bit of a sensationalized response or a clickbaity response, if you will. So I agree more with Shaket on this. I don't think that that's necessarily accurate, but we'll also have to kind of wait and see where the future takes us with the advancements of AI soon, as well. So.
And also if it's something that you're necessarily like worried about in terms of like AI is going to take over more or it's going to turn into a more prominent role in jobs, AI and machine learning is a section of software development that you can look into. And so you can kind of not get ahead of it, but if you are worried, so to speak, which I don't think you should be, but if it's something that interests you or you think that it's going to be super powerful in the future, you can go ahead and learn that and kind of take a deep dive into it, because definitely in the next few years, there's still going to be, for the years to come, I think there's always going to be a need for AI developers.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Okay. Oops, I just clicked something else here. Is the boot camp enough to start a career? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's about managing your expectations. Like I said earlier, if you go through a boot camp and you expect to be hired by your favorite company in the top developing role a week after you complete the boot camp, it's probably not a realistic expectation. You will still have to build your career after you do it. The boot camp's also really important that you are engaged and you do the work throughout, that you network, that you put in the time in addition to just doing the coursework that comes through it. By kind of putting yourself out there, you're going to give yourself a million more opportunities that you wouldn't get if you're just kind of completing the boot camp solely without doing the other work on the side. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, it really depends on the additional work that you put into it, but it would be enough to get you into a career as a base level software developer for sure.
Also, the nice thing about the software dev world, um, y unlike other industries, like let's say if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, whatever, you need to have the specific degrees or the licenses or anything like that. For the software dev world, um, there isn't such a strong focus on like formal education. Honestly, it's a lot of like do you have the skills we're looking for? Great. That's the thing is whether those skills are self-taught, whether they're taught through a boot camp, through a university program, through a college program, doesn't really matter, as long as you have the skills that they're looking for. And that's kind of the really nice thing about the software dev world is there isn't such a strong emphasis on that formal education part of things.
Totally. Absolutely. I'm just I'm looking up if we've got we have a million questions coming through for this one here. So we'll keep trying to get through them as quickly as we can here, guys. I don't have a software development background, but interested to apply software development skills towards digital transformation technologies like machine learning, augmented reality, XR, specifically to industry specific use cases. Can you please expand on whether this bootcamp will help me on that and to which level? To digital transformation technologies like machine learning. I mean, so one thing I would say is it could be a course for you to consider. We also do have XR development and XR design courses. So if, it kind of depends on which area you're looking to get into specifically. This course could be a good fit for you. We might have other courses that may also be a good fit for you. My recommendation would be to kind of take a look at our full course catalog and see which one could be the best. But anything that's going to provide you with kind of the software development skills, the base skills, is going to be incredibly helpful. But if you were looking to get a job specifically in like AR or XR, for example, I'd probably recommend our XR development with Unity course versus the software development course.
Yeah, and I think also JavaScript, I think some IoT devices use JavaScript, I think. So that might be useful. But like Tyler said, once you have those core software dev skills, you can take them and apply them to whatever industry you're interested in. It's great to have like specified learning towards a specific industry if you're interested in it. But really, the software dev skills that you learn can be applied to software dev, to gaming, to machine learning, to anything like that.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. Okay, so this one I actually don't know. So what is the salary range in Vancouver area specifically for beginner software developers? I provided some stats on BC, the average, like the general average software developer salary, but I don't have just on me handy right now. I don't have information on Vancouver specific and for beginner, but we can absolutely look into that and provide some information with for you. So if you want, usually what I recommend is just reach out. The best way is to start a conversation with our admissions team. Let them know kind of what your thoughts are, and the marketing side, our entire team can pull together some additional statistics and provide you that information through the admissions officer as well. So just reach out to us, start the conversation, and if you have that question or any additional ones, we can always provide more information there for you. Sorry, I don't have those stats just kind of handy on me right now, but the presentation did provide kind of the general salary information or the average salary information for the different provinces there. So at least you'll have that in the recording afterwards too. What is the structure of the course like? Are there class hours, learning? Have lab time at 3 p.m. today. So the course schedule itself, I believe if you go to the course page, the like the website page that I shared before, it'll give you a really good breakdown of what the week would look like. I touched a little bit on it earlier in the presentation. I kind of explained like how the week would break down. And are there class hours? Yeah, there are class hours. There's scheduled time slots for most of our courses. Again, I don't know the exact time slots that would be available for this one, but if you go onto the course page and take a look, they'd be able to kind of outline that information there for you. And it would be live talk classes, but then there's also portions of the course that you can do things independently. So yeah, there would technically be called live class hours, but then the sessions are also recorded too, so you can go back and watch them afterwards as well. So hopefully I'm answering your question there, Andrew. For the bootcamp specifically, is there a level of math you'd recommend? So we kind of touched on this earlier. I mean, best thing to do for anything is take a look at the course syllabus and kind of see what's involved in it. Just know that with software development, having a little bit of math understanding or knowledge is probably going to benefit you, but you don't have to be like a high-level math whiz to be able to go through and take a software development course. It's just, it's kind of like coding. Like if you were looking at taking a course like this and you're like, oh, I hate math, I hate coding, it's like probably not the greatest course for you to consider. But if you're okay with learning a bit of math and you're okay with coding languages and that kind of stuff excites you, then this would certainly be a good opportunity for that. So. What are the schedules for the boot camp? So again, Roger, I kind of shared a little bit earlier in the presentation, but the best way to do it would be to go to the course page. And I can ask the team, I can't see the chat right now, but we can just share the course pages in the chat again for everyone. But if you want, just go there and take a look. It'll tell you what the exact schedule would look like for each of the courses there. It's a little easier to do it that way. Why are boot camps so expensive? 12,000. I mean, I know that they're priced pretty competitively from other education that I've seen. We actually get feedback quite a bit that they're priced pretty nicely and competitively, but it all kind of depends on what you're comparing it to. So, but if you have any other questions about the pricing there, about the payment plans or anything, you're absolutely welcome to reach out. We can share more details there for you on that. One type of portfolio will students finish the program with to help with their job search? So yeah, they complete several different projects throughout, and then they do a capstone project at the end. So you would have the capstone that you can work on, I believe, on your own or with other classmates, and then the additional projects you kind of complete on your own throughout the course. I don't know the exact number of them. Again, we can provide that, or it would tell you in the course syllabus exactly how many sections and how many you'd complete with. But that's how you kind of build up your portfolio and your resume. You would have all the assignments and the projects that you do. Everything's hands-on in a boot camp, so it's not like just sitting and kind of taking in information. It's asking you to take it in and kind of show what you know as you go through the entire boot camp. So that allows you to create projects and have a great portfolio at the end. So. Okay, this one's over for you. How important is it to know fundamentals like algorithms, data structures when looking for beginner level software development positions?
I wouldn't say it's like top priority, but you should definitely know the big ones or the main ones. I know I've heard of some like technical interviews where they're like, describe the depth first versus breadth first searching algorithm. It, Unfortunately, because the software dev world is so big, the answer is it depends. Like I could tell you for the gaming industry, specifically Ubisoft, we have our own proprietary game engine that handles things like searching through like searching algorithms, sorting algorithms, data structures, like that's already all made in the engine that we use. So I don't necessarily need to know the specifics of it, but I do need to know, for example, when it comes to data structures, like should I use a map versus or like a vector versus a linked list or something like that. Like I need to know the benefits and the uses of each one, but I don't necessarily have to know how it's created. It's good to know because if you are required to do it, like for example, I have a teammate who basically created almost like a linked list outside of like what we're given in the engine. But yeah, it's good to know. Like I said, I know a lot of interviews kind of ask about like, can you describe this algorithm or that algorithm, just to see if you have that like theory knowledge. Because the nice thing about algorithms is it teaches you how to think almost, or it gives you another way to solve problems. And so when you are approached with a problem, you can be like, oh, I know that algorithm does X, Y, Z, so maybe I could do ABC based on that X, Y, Z. So it's good to know. You don't have to know every single algorithm under the sun. You don't have to know every single data structure. But definitely algorithms, data structures, and design patterns as well. Design patterns is also one that you should know at least the main ones. Not to the nitty-gritty detail, but know about.
Absolutely. And yeah, Shamir, if you wanted to go on and take a look at the request of the course syllabus, it'll kind of tell you how we touch on those different areas in the bootcamp too. So just to kind of add to that. And then I think, just double checking before I say this, I think this is the last question that we have in here. How many hours outside of class hours are we expected to commit? Is it feasible to have a full-time job while doing the bootcamp? So I kind of answered this earlier. I don't know the exact amount of hours. It would kind of vary probably a little bit because a lot of students do the coursework, but then also, because they have passion, they do things on their own. They find other opportunities. They work on projects that are not even included in the curriculum. So some students probably put in more time than others, just depending on kind kind of what their availability is and where their passion level lies. But it's absolutely feasible to do this while you have a full-time job. I don't know. I was just saying it earlier, Kevin. Basically, my only recommendation there is don't try and take on like too many things at once. Like maybe one boot camp and a full-time job would be good. But if you're looking at doing several different things, like maybe don't try signing up for 2 boot camps at the same time, because that can be a little bit crazy. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, to expand on that too, Kevin, just connect with the admissions team. They can tell you what the exact breakdown would look like. Or if you go to the website and just download the course syllabus, it's going to give you a really good, accurate breakdown of what the week would look like for both the in-class times and then how much work you would do outside of that on the weekly basis. But yeah, it's definitely feasible, something you'd be able to do with a full-time job in the evenings and on the weekends. And okay. Thank you for the great webinar. Would you please share your email addresses? So we don't normally share email addresses out in the live sessions, but you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. Absolutely. I mean, for myself, you can reach out to me if you like. My email is Tyler, Tyler @circuitstream.com. So feel free to reach out to me. If you have any questions about the courses, though, it's definitely advisable that you reach out to the admissions team because they'll be able to answer a lot better than I can on a lot of these questions. They can give you specifics on the course times, the hours throughout the week, all that kind of fun stuff. So, but if you have any general questions or if you just want to connect with me, you can find me on LinkedIn, like I said before. And same with Shaked, just search in our name, search in the company, and you can find us on LinkedIn. They're very easy. Just going to flip over to the chat to make sure we're not missing anything here. Perfect. So we just posted the course pages in there one last time. So those are the links there for all of you folks in the audience. If you want to click it and request the syllabi or syllabus, I should say, for any of these 3 links, you can, and it should get sent out right to your email the same way that this event recording will. So that is it, I think. Oh, my camera's not in focus. There we go. I think that's it for today. So before I say anything else, just like a massive, huge thank you so much, Shaked, for taking the time to join me today, for answering all of these questions that have come through. Obviously, this has been a great session. We've had a lot of interaction and a lot of great questions coming from the audience. So huge thank you to you.
Yeah, thank you as well for inviting me, and thank you to the audience for being so engaging. It's really nice, especially during a Q&A session where we have questions to answer. So thank you very much for asking your questions. Hopefully we answered all of them. I know I can ramble a little bit. But yeah, if you have any other questions, whether it's about like software dev or the gaming industry, feel free to message me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to answer those.
Perfect. Yeah, that's always the worst when you're like, okay, anybody have any questions? And it's just radio silence. It's like, oh,
Just
man.
crickets.
Yeah, so it's always welcome to have the questions. So thank you to all the folks in the audience as well for joining us today. Stay tuned for our next events that we have. You can always check out Circuit Stream's website to kind of see what's coming up, or the McGill or the UBC websites. We'll have the events posted on all 3. So thank you, everyone. I'll leave it there, and I hope everyone has a fantastic Thursday and rest of the week. Cheers. Goodbye, everybody.
Hi, everyone.